My Hero Academia has been around for quite a while now, and it has definitely risen in popularity. It has blown up all around the world, getting even the less avid anime fans invested in it. But of course, with all popularity and praise comes those who entirely disagree. So, on one side, we have those claiming that My Hero Academia is something provided to us by the gods and that it's one of the new big three. And on the other side, we have those claiming that My Hero Academia is terrible and is only good to those who haven't watched anime before. With that being said, I wanted to take it upon myself to review the entirety of the My Hero Academia series, going arc by arc. I want to point out the good and the bad of this anime that has the haters treating people who like My Hero, like Midoriya, being abused by Bakugo. I will say though that the fandom itself could improve a bit, but I've already discussed that in another video. Now, I will only be covering that which has been released in the anime as to avoid spoilers to those who are anime only. Therefore, I will try to keep comparisons to the manga minimum and just use the judgment of the anime. Albeit, the My Hero anime is one of the more faithful adaptations, so there aren't too many differences besides character designs and some small events. This also won't be a one arc a video due to My Hero technically having a bunch of mini arcs. For example, the entrance exam arc, which is 4 episodes, the quirk apprehension arc, which is 2 episodes, and the battle trial arc, which is 3 episodes. For this video, I will just be covering the entrance exam arc, but I'll explain why later. Nor do I want to do the entire UA beginning saga because trying to cover 50 episodes in one video is a bit much. With that being said, I will try to get as much covered in a single video without using up too much time. So that's about 4 to 5 arcs per video depending on how many episodes are within each arc. But let's get this started. Episode 1. The first episode of the series focuses on fantastic world building. It does this through a narrative dump from Midoriya about how the world is the way that it is, but also just with the interactions throughout the episode. Specifically looking at Bakugo's and class's reaction to Midoriya wanting to go to UA. Those with quirks are in the headlights of society and the majority in comparison to the quirkless. The celebrities of this world are the heroes, and if you are quirkless, well, you're out of luck. The episode is mainly focused on world building, but does start to introduce some of the major characters without deviating from the initial point. I want to praise this episode for a line that we are given that really hits deep and sticks with Midoriya's character. It gives us a lot of insight into how he views the world and what he wanted most.
Do you think I can be a hero too? I'm sorry, Izuku.
Overall, a solid intro episode. It gives us enough information to move forward in the story and provides a lot of background for a lot of information to come. Episode 2. This episode deviates from the first and makes it more character-centric. Instead of world building, it's building its characters, but it does it in a very interesting way. Instead of just spouting off about who the characters are, it builds them and lets you get to know them through the relationships that are building. As we see the relationship build between Midoriya and All Might, we get to know each of these characters. I guess you could say the same for Midoriya and Bakugo, but I wouldn't really call it a relationship building. I suppose even bad relationships count. Both of these episodes are fine in their own right, but the pacing is a bit off. Episode 1 and 2 definitely could have been combined instead of giving us such a slow start. Let us see the world building and character introductions within one episode, and then get the story started the second episode. I recently watched Nuxtaku's video on Midoriya, and I have to agree with him on this part of the episode where Midoriya attacks the villain. This isn't so much selfishness as it is suicidal. He had no way to stop the villain, so both him and Bakugo would have died if it wasn't for All Might. And yeah, I understand that he inspired All Might to move, but if All Might wasn't there, the show would have just been over. A good thing that the episode does give us is just showing us the raw power of All Might, setting goals. It shows us who Midoriya looks up to and what he's striving for. This man punched so hard that he made it rain on them hoes. I'm going to keep track of this just to prove a point. We need a cry counter. I'm not including child Midoriya crying, only present Midoriya. And this is one. Episode 2 ends, and it feels good. Still no major complaints. The only thing is that I feel like episode 1 and 2 could have just been combined, so I see a bit of a pacing problem. But it's easy to take in, and maybe I'd have a different opinion if it was my first time through. Let me know how you feel about the pacing in My Hero, though. Onward to episode 3. We start off this episode with a very solid introduction to One For All. It's very simple, but it gives you the roots of everything that will be expanded on with One For All within the series. Also, cry count is at 2. Episode 3 in the beginning is actually pretty boring. I didn't find the beach cleaning to be too interesting. I understand the premise of the episode and what it's setting up, but it's just a training montage of cleaning a beach. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound interesting to me. Could you imagine if that was what Naruto was doing while he was training with Jiraiya? I'd like to say that this episode is one of the few that we get to see All Might roll up on bitches like. And I guess the picture on the phone is technically a cry count 3. We do get some pretty solid comedy overall in this episode.
I'm a failure. After all that hard work. I'm sorry, All Might. I'm sorry, Mom. God, I've been falling for a long time. This is really gonna hurt.
While being introduced to more of the side characters, which I think is definitely one of the strong points of My Hero. They have so many side characters, but all of them are so well written. Some may even say that the side characters get better development than Midoriya, but let's not talk about that at the moment. We end the episode with a cliffhanger, and it's a relatively well done one. We all want to see how this exam goes down, and it's set up well. Deku did all of this training for his body, but he has no idea how to use his quirk. We know he has a strong quirk, but we know that the people around him grew up with their quirk and are going to be more experienced. The episode ends on Midoriya's nervous face, and we're most definitely nervous for him. Episode 3 ends, and the first half of the episode makes sense, but it's boring. And then the second half is when things start getting interesting. Finally, episode 4. Here we are. Time for the exam, and we get to see the fruits of Midoriya's labor. This exam is set up pretty well, though. A race between each contestant to take out as many enemies as possible to rack up points. And it makes sure to point out the strengths that help each kind of hero. This helps identify strengths of characters that don't just rely on raw power. The only thing that bothers me is not pointing out the one strict rule that allows Midoriya to pass. It makes it seem like a bit of an ass pull, but at the same time, if it was something announced, it wouldn't have the same effect. People would make sure to put in the effort to save others, even at the risk of no points, if they knew. This heightens the response by Midoriya to save Uraraka. He gets nothing out of it, and makes it reasonable that he's able to pass. So it's self-explanatory after the fact, but during just seems like a way to push the main character forward. But the animation here is fantastic. This is the first time we get to see it, and we finally get to see Midoriya's style of unleashing One For All. It's simple and quick, but done so well. It also shows the after effects of not being able to control that power with Midoriya's broken arm and legs. This establishes an essential rule that will be followed until Midoriya learns better control over his new quirk. Can I mention how, at this current part, Midoriya looks like the surprise emote in Animal Crossing after the exam? Anyways, with the end of episode 4, our true story begins, and this is when things start to get real interesting. For this first video, I will just be going over the entrance exam. I said that earlier, since it seems this has gone on long enough. Depending on the response from this, though, I may extend the videos out just a bit longer to cover more. These first episodes don't have too many problems. The pacing is a bit off and probably could have been completed within 2 to 3 episodes if you combine the first 2 episodes and cut out the beach training half of episode 3, or even just shorten the beach training. But these aren't really complaints. I'm fine with it the way it is, and the change isn't absolutely necessary. Let me know what you think of My Hero Academia, though. Is it your cup of tea? Was it your first anime? I am interested in hearing. And of course, for more of these videos soon to come, please make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're notified when the next one is released.